Hey guys, welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine. This is your daily show. I'm your host Khalid Mohideen. This is the show where we talk about all the major talking points in South African cricket. As you know, what we're going to be talking about today is this massive news that broke today. Well, it didn't just break today because we knew it was coming for quite some time. There were threats and now it's coming into fruition. The sports minister obviously is in full swing at CSA. Now, what's happening currently is that he informed Cricket South Africa's Members Council and he informed the Interim Board that Section 13 of the National Sports Recreation Act and will be active, which will see CSA be stripped from the recognition as the authority in South African cricket. So it's crazy from his part because it's going to cause a lot of issues in South Africa, possibly a ban. The government will obviously be pulling their funds from Cricket South Africa itself. But I'm not going to go too much into that. I'm going to let Paul obviously explain that to us because he's done his research, his homework, and he's going to come on here with his PowerPoint slides and he's going to show us all. Now I'm just joking, but he's going to be giving us a good insight into what is happening with Cricket South Africa. I have to also say SA Emerging pulled out an amazing win in the first game against Namibia, so that was excellent from that part. That's something we might touch on as well as some things that have been happening in the IPL, i.e. Quinny's form, i.e. Faf's form, i.e. some of the other South African players' form too. So before we get started, before I bring on our guests, please subscribe to this channel. Click that notification bell for all future videos. So let's get to it. I've got for you today Mpho on the show, and as I said, I've got Emily on the show, and all the way from England, and then we've got Aditya.
So Emily in England now.
India.
I don't know if I was supposed to blast that out on live streams. She's probably going to smack me from all the way from England, but sooner or later we're going to see in about. I'll give it about 2 episodes of Offside Maidens, and she'll be. Obviously introducing herself as MLA and not Emily. You see, we only tease the ones that we miss, Emily. So I'm just letting you guys know that. So guys, let's get straight into it. Mpho, from your perspective, give us a quick rundown, everything that's happening so that we can get an understanding. And then I'm going to give Emily some questions to ask you and Aditya as well. And then we'll get into the discussion. Just take it away.
Yeah. So on Sunday we spoke about what the members' council voted for. Remember, the members' council effectively are like the shareholders of cricket. They make the decisions in terms of who's on the board, and then the board decides who's the executive to run CSA. So the members' council had to amend their memorandum of incorporation to allow for more independent members on the CSA board, right? And that is in line with corporate governance. That's in line with the Judge Nicholson report, which came out in 2012 after a similar scandal happened. I think it was the IPL one that dragged on for like 3 years and people got fired. Remember in that IPL one, people were stealing money as well. They were just eating and siphoning money somewhere along the way. So then this week, the minister was not happy that the members' council voted against it. So this week, he kept on threatening the members' council to force them to make a decision. And then he said on Tuesday that they had a deadline for Tuesday afternoon at 5 p.m. to vote for these changes. The members' council came back and cited that they didn't have enough time, that some of the things they have questions about, some of the clauses, the changes that to the independence, and they wanted the independence to come back to the board, the interim board, actually, not independence, the interim board to come back to the table and negotiate again. Yesterday, the interim board had a press conference. They kind of detailed the entire timeline of when they started, what their mandate was, what's been going on between the interim board, the members' council, and SASCOC. And effectively, the members' council, if you could look at that, were dragging their feet, trying to find ways to challenge this thing or to stop this thing from happening. The deadline was actually 17 April, which is why the board meeting happened on the 16th of April or on the 17th, and they never voted. So today, the minister's been threatening this the whole week, that he's going to invoke Section 13 of the Sports Act, which effectively allows him and SASCOC and all SASCOC to intervene inside a federation if there has been a dispute. Section 13.5 gives the minister powers, Section 13, subsection 5 subsection 5 allows the minister to recognize, defund. So you're not going to get money from the ministry, which is 5 million rand every year. They get money, CSA, but obviously it's small compared to the rights money that they get from Supersport and around the world, and also the ICC, and also de-recognize the sport. So therefore, he's now put in place. He's going to gazette next week, Friday. So once it's gazetted, it comes into law. In South Africa, when you make laws, you have to put it in a gazette. It takes about 7 days, and then it comes out. Actually, it doesn't take 7 days, but he's dragging his feet a little to try give the members' council a thing. But he's instituted the thing. And so next week in the government gazette, so everyone take it, find it. If you can find a copy, a copy, like a hard copy, you can get a lot of money in 20 years' time. That will say South African cricket will no longer be recognized as a sport in South Africa, which means that any team that is outside of the country or that comes out of South Africa to play an international game purporting to be South Africa is illegitimate. They'll have to call themselves something like the Rebels or whatever animal or plant they want to do in order for them to play, right? But then the big issue that this does is the ICC, because in turn, the ICC doesn't want government intervention. If the minister then invokes this, the ICC can come and invoke their own sanctions. Now, here's the question that everyone's been trying to figure out today. How long is this going to take? The minister, I think, can take about a week or so to unscramble this egg. The only problem is with the ICC, if the ICC bans you, there's a time frame accorded to it, either 3 or 6 months. And so the question about this is, how is this going to go from an ICC perspective? Because the moment the minister does this next week, Friday, the ICC has to ban South Africa based on their bylaws and the way they've done it before. So that's the only question, because if the ICC bans you, the question is next week, Friday, or whenever it comes out, how long is this ban for? So that essentially is what happened this week.
And we know that we want a poached, not a scrambled. And Emily, from your perspective, if you're going to ask the import any questions of anything that you don't understand, I'm thinking that you'll probably be the voice of so many South Africans as well, because I think a lot of us don't really understand what's going on and didn't follow it to the T like Import did. And I've been following it to an extent, but not as in detail. So, Emily, if you have any questions, what are some of the things that are bothering you with regards to that?
I think everyone's main concern then will be is, what happens to international tournaments then? Does that mean, there's no World Cup for the Proteas? Like, they can't play in any, big tournaments. They can't, they were saying they can't play in, in international things. So I don't know I think that's just the main question. Like, if you're playing for your franchise, okay, well now you're playing for your province. What are you working towards, I think, is the question. Are you're working towards playing in the IPL? Or, I think that's the main worry that everyone's asking.
So, look, I don't think it's going to last too long. I think it's just it's a boardroom power play. It's a minister's power play to try and force his recommendations through. And effectively, he's forcing the members' council to make a decision with their hands tied and the back, even though they disagree with this. And this is what people need to understand. The members' council believe that cricket in this country cannot be run by a group of independent people. They believe that it must be run by them, i.e. the administrators of the game. But they got us into this hole. But they know that by the minister doing this, he's effectively drying the tap. It's not the 5 million that he's paying. It's the broadcast rights they potentially are going to lose from not appearing at the World Cup, because the broadcast rights get split up amongst those who participate. Also, the broadcast rights they get for any inbound tours that the Proteas host, or any appearance and sponsorship that is related to this Proteas team. For instance, outbound tours like the West Indies, Ireland, and everything else, and that puts those in jeopardy. And effectively, it's said to them that, fine, if you don't want to take my recommendations, I'm going to take your sport away. So it's like a child at the playground who no longer wants to play with you guys, or you didn't pick him, and he's the one who owns the ball. So he's taking the ball effectively away from you. It's going to, I don't think it's going to be too long. I think for the sake of everything else and CSA collapsing financially, it will be resolved quickly. The only problem is that if they want to hold out, and they want to hold out until the World Cup, then we won't see the Proteas at the World Cup. And also, this West Indies tour is in jeopardy because I don't know how the West Indies will feel about taking a team that A, potentially could be banned by the ICC, and B, is not recognized in their own country as a national team. It goes back to those rebel tours back in the days when West Indies came to South Africa and South Africa wasn't recognized as an international side. And those guys who were on those rebel tours, some of those guys committed suicide, some of them were pariahs and all of that in their country. So it's those little things that we need to consider. And the players, we will play international cricket again. It's like Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe keeps on yo-yoing in and out of bans. But it's just a situation of the current issue is the World Cup. And also the women's team has a tour to England. That's also in jeopardy.
Is it not possible for the government to put in place or get offers from another organization that is created from this, if CSA collapses, to get another organization to take over and take control that has maybe a split share in some individual owners and some cricket members, council members, as well as some people that the government has appointed as well, just to keep some levelness. I mean, I think that's kind of what the sport minister wants to do as well, is to put some people from the government in the sports to make sure that everything this speeds over or goes correctly and the way they want it to be ministered.
Yes, but the problem is SASCOC. So CSA is the only recognized body for cricket in the country. So if you want to create another alternative one, you're going to have to get it through SASCOC. And SASCOC right now, I think, are siding with the Members' Council. I think they're going to try to test this whole thing of the minister's intervention in court to see if it stands in court. That's the only pretty much leg that the Members' Council have to stand on. The question is, with the rate of South African courts, it might take months. And so that's the one thing. But if you create another organization, it will create a problem, a massive problem, because on legitimacy as well as who's the right cricket body. Is it the CSA that's run by those provinces, those unions, or is it this new one? And bear in mind that all sports in South Africa are run in the same way that CSA has been run. Nothing's changed. CSA essentially is becoming like the guinea pig for this new level of governance that's being put in. And to a certain extent, it's a no-brainer because businesses in South Africa are run like this, with independent people on the board. A majority independents are a little bit tougher to stomach. I thought it was a little bit too harsh, but it was a recommendation from Judge Nicholson, so they have to follow it. But creating another CSA type organization is not going to help.
So now, Aditya, me and you have spoken in depth about this, maybe from the ICC's perspective, trying to think about whether the ICC would ban South Africa, because it's such a massive statement to do so because of the role that South Africa plays in in world cricket. Now, they will, because of their previous decisions to do so to other countries, they'll be obviously forced into doing it to South Africa. But if they don't, will it create an outroar around the world, do you think?
Frankly, I think everyone wants to see South Africa be an integral part of international cricket. And to be honest, ICC doesn't seem to be the sort of organization that likes conflict. I think no one does. But what they want to ensure, as Ravi had said on Sunday, that, you guys need to look after your business. CSA's governance is essentially its own problem, and they need to sort that out within themselves and with the South African government, with the minister, because if CSA does get stripped of its legitimacy, then the ICC will have no choice but to ban South Africa because of the precedent that has been set in previous years as well. So it's not an ideal situation, but correct me if I'm wrong, Bo. It seems like there is a little bit of there's a sliver of hope there with a compromise on the cards. Is that? Do you think that's true? Is that possible still? That the Members' Council can sort of give in to some of the compromises that the government has asked them?
So the minister has said in his press release that in the days in which this thing is going to be gazetted, if the members' council does change and concede to what the minister wants, then this will be taken away, and this will not be enforced. So essentially, as you're saying, it's like tying their hands behind their back to do something that these guys don't want to do. They don't want to let go. And the reasons behind them not letting go are that they've created a lovely, and the Fundudzi report that came out kind of gave you a semblance of what was going on with the board and the members' council as well, in terms of certain service providers who were getting performing services for CSA were being approved by. They gave the executive powers by the executive without being checked by the board, and that created some sort of a patronage system where people were coming in to try and you could say take some money out of CSA, try and line their pockets a little bit. On top of that, the board also, which hasn't been done by other sporting boards, the board, they signed off the fact that they pay themselves every time they meet. So you get a salary for attending a meeting for a cricket board or a sporting board, which is odd because it's not supposed to be it is supposed to be a profit center, but you're not supposed to be paying people that like your JSC top 40 business. So it was things like that I think they're still holding on to. But the question is, if the members' council want to hold on and fight, it's going to go to the courts. And the longer this takes, and the longer that South Africa can't use the flag or the emblem to play cricket internationally, the ICC will have to step in sometime. And the sad part about it is we're 6 months before a World Cup.
Yeah. So let me just read that last bit from the press release today that CSA sent out. They said the board commends the majority of the members' council who support good governance and voted in favor of a modern governance structure for cricket. It is deeply disappointing that a self-interested vocal minority voted against change while 3 members chose to abstain. These actions have now brought the game to its knees and will cause the greatest crisis since readmission. So that's the final words of that press release, showing that there's interfighting between the members themselves on decisions that they're trying to make. And we explained that on a previous stream as well. And Paul said the way it is spread out.
So there's a question here. Tato Sekheto asks a very good question, and a question that I think many people need to grapple with as well. Because there are essentially the big 3 sports in South Africa: rugby, cricket, and soccer, are run like this, run by unions, and they've had scandals throughout the past. Ever since democracy, there's been scandal after scandal after scandal. And the question was obviously, why start with cricket? Football would have been the best guinea pig. And that goes to the minister. And to a certain extent, I'm slightly uncomfortable about this ministerial overreach, because of the fact that it feels as though he's forcing it. Now, the question I'd ask the minister, and I think we'd all hear, even people listening, I don't think he would have the similar power to do this at SAFA in the Football Association, as well as in the Rugby Association. And I think that's the one key thing that I think some of the members' council members are saying, is that he's doing this, but the only way you can effect this properly is if he had to go through SASCOC first, because that's the body that runs sport in the country. The minister gives his powers to SASCOC. And so there is a side, the members' council side, that says sport hasn't been run like this. No changes have come through from SASCOC to do this in majority independent. So why are you picking on us? Even though we have cleaned out the board. So the board's been cleaned out of the independents that were sitting on there, and the members' council members that were sitting on the previous board under Tabang have all left. This is now new members. Even though there are some corporate governance failures, that needs to be a much bigger project with South African sport as a whole, rather than you picking on us and starting with us first. And so those are the things that need to be asked to the minister. There are questions around that. Me as an outsider, the answer is a majority independent board. Not even necessarily majority, but you need more independence. The problem is that in a sporting body like in a sporting body, the unions, those who are not part of the game, will vote with those who are not part of the game, and those who are part of the game will vote for those who are part of the game. And so you needed to get that balance right. And I kind of felt that balance was a 50-50 with an independent chair who was a judge or somebody who could apply their mind, and a learned person who could be balanced on either side of the argument. Because the whole point of a board is to win your other people over, not necessarily for you to run in packs. And that's what CSA ended up being. CSA ended up becoming the super PAC, where independent voices were quieted, and you ran the game the way the members wanted. And that's how we got to this point. So I think that's where the situation comes in. And I think there are some arguments for the members' council. I just feel as though it's a massive overreach. I don't know if it stands up in court. I'm not a lawyer, but there's a possibility for a legal challenge here from the members' council.
Okay, guys, so I'm going to finish this off with something that is off topic from this now. I think we've got enough discussion on this, and there's enough for you guys to think about, and is enough. So thanks a lot from Paul for all of that, and for Emily and DJ for obviously asking the questions. But I'm going to ask I'm going to ask one question to the panel, and I'm going to start with Emily, then Aditya, and then on Paul. There's a debate currently, or a discussion amongst fans. They want to see Faf, Morris, AB back in the T20 World Cup squad in South African cricket. Which ones do you want to see? If it's all of them, then obviously you can say all of them and give me a reason why. So let's start with Emily.
Oh man, why are you starting with me? I was trying to gather my thoughts. I think it would just be Faf, to be honest. I mean, I've said this previous times, like, I'm a massive fan of Faf. And I think he still has a lot that he could add to that team. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to see Faf in there. Yeah, not so much Morris or AB. I mean, AB de Villiers and Chris Morris are obviously two very brilliant players. I mean, AB de Villiers, there's no better batsman than him, probably besides, Virat Kohli or Babar Azam. So yeah, I mean, he's a brilliant player, but I just think his time is, I mean, he's had his time, and yeah, his time is not up now. So that's just my opinion. But yeah, Faf, I think I'd love to see him there. Yeah.
So Aditya, I'm going to spice your question up a little bit, because I'm going to say, when you make your AB decision as well and your Faf decision as well, bear in mind, obviously, the news that you told me today about the Rassie van der Dussen coming into the IPL, does that increase his stature as a focal point in South African cricket?
It does, and I'm very excited to see how he performs, and I hope he gets a lot of game time, because he's coming in as a replacement for Liam Livingstone, who up until this point had not got a lot of game time. So I hope that Rassie gets game time. In saying that, it's AB de Villiers is a different beast, and his experience in Indian conditions, his adaptability is unparalleled. And let's keep in mind that the games that RCB has played this year, they've played on the toughest wickets in Chennai, and now they've moved to an easier wicket in Mumbai, where he didn't get to bat yesterday. But in Chennai, in 2 out of 3 games, he's made unbelievable contributions, game-defining contributions. So we can't really ignore that. And South Africa do need to put out their strongest team, and I think AB de Villiers fits into that team. Same with Faf, and I've said this previously as well. Faf should be opening the innings. I think the versatility that he's shown through this tournament has been unbelievable. And I think going by his 95 not out the other day, there's no question in my mind that he should be opening the innings.
And Paul, take it on for us.
I want all of them in the side. I think I sent you guys a team, an 11 that had all of them inside. Faf, AB, Chris Morris, inside that team. And I think and even Tahir, the big problem for me is Tahir and Shamsi. I want both of them to play, but I need one of them to be able to bat. but none of them can't. So it's a massive headache. But yeah, look, I think the big question for this is Mark Barcher's Hail Mary pass. For him to save his legacy as a coach, because he's losing matches left, right, and center. He needs to find a way to incorporate all those IPL guys in a team that Timber can lead. And on top of that, find a way to get Quinton de Kock's confidence back. And I think that's going to be the big key thing he has to do. It's fitting those guys in. I think he can fit them in. It's just Quinton de Kock's mindset. It's figuring out which of the three seamers you drop and play two and Chris Morris. And the three seamers, I mean, Lungi, Kagiso, and Anna. And then on top of that, obviously George Linder's probably going to start in this World Cup because we need a spinning all-rounder. And then on top of that, the other question is how you fit that top six in and around. So do you open with Faf and have Timber bat at 3, with AB hanging and hovering around, waiting to either to bat at 5 or at 4? Those are the type of questions. I think the biggest loser, unless if Rassie can get a game, because I heard that Rassie's going to the IPL now with Rajasthan. If Rassie can get a few games and just power hit, get the Indian media on his side, get Indian fans on his side, you then create a massive headache in that middle order, because then it's going to be a question of either Rassie or Miller or AB. But I'm happy they all need to be in the squad. This is his Hail Mary pass, and it's the one time where I believe that South Africa actually will come to a World Cup with a team that can actually win it. Not a team that wins bilateral series throughout the years, but a team that can actually be a powerhouse based on the fact that these guys are T20 powerhouses. But it can all fall apart, and that's the other problem. And if it does, we've seen before, I don't know where you go from there.
Can I ask the panel a question, if you don't mind?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Before that, I want to tell the Cricket Connoisseur, happy St. George Day, mate. Hope you're doing well. My question to the panel is Quinton de Kock droppable as a player?
No.
He's
your wicketkeeper.
If AB de Villiers comes in, he becomes a wicketkeeper.
So here's the thing, right?
Hey guys, wait. I need to stop you there before you give that answer. I think that should be the topic of the Sunday podcast. Okay, that's the topic of the Sunday podcast. I'm going to leave the guys there for that answer. I don't want you guys to answer that. I'm going to say one thing. AB sweet talked me, because in that interview after that IPL game that he scored that crazy runs for RCB, it's what he told me. It's what he said to the fans that really got to me. It's the fact that he said that, yes, absolutely wants to play, but he needs to be fit. And he needs to make sure that he has a good IPL before he makes that decision and speaks to Voucher. So that shows me that that's a whole different ballgame. So AB, if you're playing like that and you're fit and you're healthy, you have to play. Faf must be there. I think Faf, from a leader perspective, from his ability to be able to anchor in innings, has to be there. The only one I'm undecided about, because of inconsistency, is Morris. That's the only one, because I don't see him as the strike bowler that he's going to be for his IPL teams. He's kind of like the strike bowler in those teams. He's not going to be that for the Proteas. So that is my concern. I don't think he will bowl. From the batting perspective, yes, I think that we'll benefit more from having that top order, top 6, as strong as it is, and having Miller there at 6, and then having a 7. Morris at 7 would work, and I would probably play him if they're dependable on other form. But I think having an extra spinner in India is more important. So I would rather want a spinning all-round at 7, and then have an 8, someone that can bowl a couple of overs. And then obviously, because Morris is not going to bowl up front and at the death. That's my concern. He's probably going to bowl in the middle overs, and that's where he gets punished the most, I feel. So I'm just a little bit worried about that. But I have to go, guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Thanks a lot to all of the guys on the panel. Paul, thanks a lot for coming on the show. Emily as well. I know you're a little bit lonely there in quarantine. So, guys, get DM her and give us some entertainment. so she can have some entertainment. Aditya, thanks a lot for coming on the show again. And to all of you, the fans out there, thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll see you again on Sunday evening with another podcast show. So join us for that. We were going to be talking about that interesting topic and that interesting question that Aditya spoke about. So take care, everybody. We'll see you again very soon. Thanks a lot for tuning in. And don't forget to also check out the content that we've done on the channel for Yanaman Malan and Peter Malan, as well as Boland, etc. Go check those out. We'll be bringing out more content there too. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll see you guys soon.